The mood tracker is obviously a fan favorite. It's one of your favorite segments that we do. Now here's the way we fashion this. It's a reminder because we haven't done one of these in a while. The mood tracker, which we will do for dozens of programs between now and the end of spring, is where we look at your program and what we want to do. For instance, we're doing Florida tonight. We want to take the temperature of the Florida fan base and we want to present it in such a way that if you're not a Florida fan, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, we want you to have a good working knowledge of what the real on-the-ground pulse is. Not the stuff you just read in headlines, not the stuff you may see in a preview magazine later this summer. An actual temperature. You know, the kind of read that you get when you engage with fans and you're kind of woven into the subcultures. Like the folks over on Swamp 24/7's board. Some of them love me, some of them hate me. That's why I just lurk. I lurk over there. And I've been lurking a lot. And I've also got several Florida buddies. So look, the mood tracker for Florida right now, fascinating. I want to first remind you of something. Think about what you thought about Dan Mullen this past season. And then ask yourself, did you develop that opinion during the 2021 season? Because I think for most of you, the answer is no. Whatever you thought, whatever issues you had with Dan Mullen, they weren't new. They weren't developed along the way during the 2021 season, whether it was the defensive issues they had and Todd Grantham, whether it was a culture issue you had, whether it was woeful recruiting when you compared yourself to Georgia or Alabama or the like. Those were already issues. For better or for worse, those were issues before 2021. And the reason why I mentioned that they were all pre-existing to some degree is to make sure you understand there have been Florida fans who have been banging the drum for changes in various departments within that overall athletic infrastructure down there for quite a while. And the reason that they became lukewarm towards Dan Mullen, or maybe the athletic department and administration as a whole down there, is because they didn't feel like they were heard. They certainly didn't feel like their opinions were being respected. Some of them tuned out. Some of them said, forget this. I mean, I'm still orange and blue till I die. However, I'm not going to invest fully with my emotion if no one even cares what I think. Well, that's why we arrive at the Florida Mood Tracker right now. Because even though there has not been a game played with this new staff yet, I think the Mood Tracker down there could be best described as heard and respected. Whether you're a player, very important note, whether you're a player or a fan at Florida, at the very least now you know you've been heard and respected. If you're a player, they thought the nutrition sucked down there. They hated the food. Billy Napier walked in, and one of the first of many things he did was he overhauled the nutrition staff. He looked around and he said, wow, you're right, this is not good enough. They had the players living in very subpar dorm conditions, especially when it comes to comparing yourself to the other big boys in the SEC and just major programs in general. Billy Napier walked in just in the past couple of days. They announced, nope, you're not staying over here anymore. Like, we'll use these places that they were making you live in to store sleds and pads and stuff. That's about what they're fit for. I mean, some of the Florida players had been quoted as comparing their dormitories to Section 8 housing. That's what they had described their living conditions as. So they're putting them in some pretty upscale, kind of apartment complex type things down there. It's a good move. It is so necessary. By the way, you never think about this, do you? You don't know it because that stuff doesn't get publicized. It matters. It matters so much. What about the fans, though? Like, where's their voice being heard? Well, stadium enhancements are immediately on the way. Facility upgrades are immediately on the way. But also, Billy Napier walked in, and he didn't need to hear the fans say this to know it, but the fans have been saying it, and it's been acknowledged. They just took a blowtorch to every Florida recruiting stereotype that ever existed under Dan Mullen. You can't get kids from IMG? Boom, signing day, get kids from IMG. I know I've been on the job 5 minutes. Let's go attack IMG anyway. The transfer portal, they have been constant in it. Recruiting every day, they've been constant in it. Again, he's just been on the job like a month. Think about it, if you're a Florida fan, if you live in Ocala and you have subscriptions to all the websites, but you've just kind of been tuned out because you knew that recruiting really wasn't worth following a whole heck of a lot under Dan Mullen, think about how engaged you've been. How many times on average per day do you check for updates in recruiting in the transfer portal now under Napier relative to the prior administration? You're heard. The things you didn't like about the program, they heard them and they addressed them. And I want you to remember two things, whether you're a Gator fan or elsewhere. Remember a couple of things here, because this reeks absolutely reeks in a positive way of what it felt like when Ohio State hired Ryan Day. Now, Ryan Day was already in the Ohio State program. Napier wasn't. But Florida, much like Ohio State, had several options. Florida had some big names on the hook if they wanted them, just like Ohio State did. And just like Ohio State, when they hired Ryan Day, Florida said, no thanks, we got our guy. And there were circus coaching searches going on elsewhere, and you had the administration at Florida with their ducks in a row. They decided what they wanted to prioritize. They found the guy that fit those parameters, and they went and hired him. It was about as clean a major coaching search as you'll ever see. It's important to note, it wasn't a last resort. They had options. Whatever they wanted, whatever they were looking for, they found in Billy Napier. And the second thing that you need to know for future reference is a lot of people in the industry, certainly the media industry, but forget about the media industry. A lot of people in the football coaching industry had their doubts when Florida hired Napier. Now, some of them still do, but I can tell you quite confidently from talking to a few of them, a lot of their doubts have been silenced because their main doubts never lied in whether Billy Napier knows football or whether he's a good, upstanding guy, whether he understands how to get buy-in. What they doubted is what kind of staff he could put together. Well, they've watched the staff he's put together. And not only that, when Napier walked in the door down there, one of the first things he asked for was, I need additional funds allocated because I've got to have a bigger staff than Dan Mullen had. I got to have a big staff. I got to have an army of support staffers. We got to fill roles that don't even exist here right now. And to their credit, the University of Florida did not tell him, well, give us some results first. Nope, that's not how it works down here. You pay on the front end to get the results on the back end. This is not like a hot prospect coming up from AAA and he plays a few years and then goes into arbitration. No. You got to pay now, and then you can fill out an entire laundry list of different analyst roles and support staff roles. We're not even talking about the assistant coaches and coordinators. You got to have them all, and Billy Napier is getting them all. So look, I don't know how they're going to fare in year one. We haven't even gotten to the spring game. I would love to get down there at some point in the spring or summer and just meet some of these guys. Look at the staff. If you're watching on YouTube, a lot of new names down there. There is a lot of confidence. And at the very least, if nothing else, if you're a Florida fan, you know that your voice has finally been heard, and there is at least some respect, finally, after what seems like forever, being paid to what you have perceived as problems in your program for a long time. And that is a good thing. That's a very good thing.